Today, we're taking a look at the 2020 Kona Satori SE. Hey folks, Chris here again with another pretty killer trail bike at a pretty good price point. So a short while ago, we took a look at the Orbea Occam, which is a really well-rounded trail bike at right around $2,600. But today we've got this 2020 Kona Satori, and at first glance, they may seem pretty similar, both 29-inch mid-travel trail bikes. However, they reflect two vastly different approaches to value-oriented mountain bikes. So today, we're going to take an in-depth look at this Kona Satori, what makes it a rad little beginner trail bike, taking a look at geometry, suspension, component spec, and ultimately we're going to throw a leg over it and see how it feels out on the trail. Let's talk numbers real briefly. The Satori is a 130mm travel 29-inch trail bike with a 140mm travel fork. It's got a pretty conservative 68-degree head tube angle and a seat tube angle that sticks nearly straight up at 78 degrees. Numbers like this definitely puts this bike more towards the cross-country end of the spectrum, but make no mistake, this bike is definitely a trail bike through and through. Kona really just wanted to deliver a bike that you would feel comfortable spending an enormous amount of time pedaling on. This is really a bike geared towards like all-day epics and just getting out there and putting out some miles. This bike pedals incredibly well. It's paired with a short chainstay that makes the bike really snappy and responsive. The reach does feel a bit short though, and so if you've got shorter arms, this might be the perfect bike for you. Component-wise, this bike could really only be described as functional. Across the board, there's nothing here particularly fantastic. There's also nothing here glaringly offensive. It's got everything you'd ever really want on a modern trail bike. It's got a 1x10 DOR-speed drivetrain that does feel a bit dated, but it's functional. It's more than enough to get you up most climbs. The Vigilante tires are a good balance between, grip and rolling resistance. It's got a nice aggressive tread pattern at 2.3, it's more than wide enough. The brakes, well, the brakes stop, but they would definitely be the first upgrade I make on this bike. It's got a Recon up front with a Deluxe on the back, and they're, again, really functional. Maybe not as supple as like the latest and greatest out there from RockShox, but for this bike, it works really well. But we can talk about parts and numbers all day long. How does this bike actually ride? Well, it's really capable. The thing we noticed immediately was how well the darn thing pedaled. Kona uses a single pivot design that relies on a torsion at the rear end to give this bike a near hardtail-like pedal response. This is like truly a bike that you can just get out there and lay down miles with. Now, most bikes are getting longer, lower, and slacker every day, and while that geometry definitely caters to like descending faster and better and getting gnarly, those bikes really only feel comfortable fully pinned at speed. And this Satori takes a pretty different approach with its conservative design. It's definitely capable of most things the trail can throw at it, but it feels confident at a slower pace. So I think this bike definitely kind of helps cater to beginner riders because that's much more approachable. But man, it's definitely no slouch. This thing is so playful and so responsible, and it just puts a huge smile on my face every time I ride it. So really, like, who is this bike for? Well, after spending some time with it, I've come to the conclusion that it's for riders who just want to get out there and ride. This is your bike for your all-day epic. This is a bike that if your single track's like tight and windy and flowy, this bike feels amazing on. If you're a new rider and this is your first real mountain bike, I don't think you'd be disappointed. It checks all the boxes, everything you'd ever want out of a modern trail bike, and just lets you get out there and start exploring. But we're curious on what you think about this Kona Satori. Let us know below. If you have any questions about this bike or any other bike that Jenson USA carries, feel free to give us a call. We'd love to talk bikes with you. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, remember, keep pedaling.